Playing the anvil, or making the anvil sing, as some people call it, actually came from was the oldest unwritten language upon earth, which goes back several thousands of years. And the reason that that language was first designed was because that in a shop with 5 or 6 men hammering, it was all but impossible to hear and understand an audible voice. So they learned that if they put their words into a tapped out, coded, rhythmatic message upon the anvil, then nobody had to bother to listen to that human voice. And since they was already having to listen to that hammer anyway, then why not let that be the part that gave them all the directions? So then long up in the 17th century, 1768, 1769, when Morse code was invented and the telegraph came along, then it took upon itself the name of the Blacksmith's Morse code. And just as Morse code was a combination of hits and dials, the Blacksmith's was taps and drags upon the anvil, each one of them meaning a different thing, just like the code, and then each group of them put together meant a different thing, just like the code. And even though created hundreds of years before it, they did bear a great deal of resemblance. But then, for wherever that work was intended to be done upon that piece of metal, that was where that ancient language was tapped out upon the anvil, because the anvil became the hammer gauge to every single thing to ever lay upon it. This represented the back of the metal, quarter way, half, 3/4, and finally the end. So that meant if the heated surface of metal to which you was hammering on was only this long, it automatically became this long. If it was this long, it still became this long. This was the comparative gauge to it all. But 1908, 1910, that was when the whole wide world woke up that day and realized that the anvil was no longer just a tool. And that day, the anvil was thus adopted into the percussion musical instrument category. And then you had the anvil choruses, which were made up of up to 50 anvils, all keyed differently, all played the music, all in their respective place, and sounded as beautiful as the Leroy Abernathy Choir. Every major orchestra, every major band, every symphony had an anvil or multiple anvils therein. But to play one sounds a lot like wind chimes, bells, hammer dulcimer, xylophone, and bells. First pair of hand bells ever played was cut from pieces of an old English anvil. Me and my 3 cousins that work for me, we still use this language, so when we're working together, it sounds a lot like what you're about to listen to. So none of my neighbors would pay a whole lot for a pair of wind chimes. My left hand represents the striker's hammer, my right hand, master's. two is like any other instrument. If you miss one, you know it, and so does everybody else.
Not always.
I've always said, between this and a rainy day, and a tin roof, that you can sleep.
Amen.
And without one single fear of telling you wrong, I can truthfully and honestly tell you, without a doubt in my mind, that this language and those men that carried it out was indeed the very first and original heavy metal music.
Bravo!